Welcome to our February edition of our Kentucky K-12 Education Technology Leaders Webcast. I'm David Couch with the Department of Education. Thanks for joining us this morning. We are here in Franklin County Career and Technology Center. I've driven by this building for the past 26 years, but the first time I've got to be in it. Fantastic facility and what you all are doing. I'm also familiar with Franklin County in the news lately. You had a Milken Award winner.
We've had a good month. Yeah.
Yes. And you also had a Mr. Football here.
So I should say we've had a great year. That's even better than what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get to see him play a couple of times. It's been fantastic. I know you guys are doing a lot of awesome things here. I'll let you speak and introduce your team, and I think we have a student here as well.
Sure.
With our office, we have a variety of folks here since it is so close, although Phil Coleman will be joining us remotely as well to make sure our Skype service and answer questions from there. But we have Damon Jackie, who represents this Central Kentucky region, all the districts. How many districts you have, Damon? 22 districts, which I appreciate Damon's effort. Got Dee Dee Connor here, and she's going to be talking about school report card. Got Mike Lettingham. Chuck Austin will be talking about our Active Directory implementation. Marty has a couple things on computer science and our academic standards. Lisa Moore is going to be talking about telehealth. Bob Hackworth here just to keep us in line. But I know we have a couple of those as possible options for the CIO Summit. And we also have some folks from KT. I sent you a little about who they were, but one other thing, Tanya is the daughter of Bob Tarvin. For those that don't know that, Bob Tarvin is one of our previous Stillwell Award winners, so we appreciate Tanya's involvement. Tanya, how long have you been in this role?
I've been in this role for 2.5 years, but I've been at KET for 15.
Right. And Tim, of course, joining us. And Tim, I would look at you as equivalent, although you don't call yourself this, as kind of like the CIO of KET, Kentucky Educational Television, if I had to pick it. We also have Brian Spillman in the audience, and Brian's at a lot of our functions, so thank you for your effort here, Brian. So I'd like to introduce the Franklin County team. Superintendent Kopp, how long have you been here?
So this is my second year superintendent here in Franklin County. Used to work for KDE. We were teammates way back in the day. I see Bob back there. I was, long-time friend of Bob's. Been here for 2 years, and we're real excited that you're here. So thank you for coming. And I'd love to introduce my team.
Please do.
First of all, we have Jimmy Pack as our Director of Technology, and Jimmy does a fantastic job. Abby Stess, you're going to be hearing from later today. We're going to share some information about Abby, one of our great students. Jim Masters, Dr. Jim Masters, is our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And the principal here at this fantastic facility is John Sanders. This is the Franklin County Career and Technical Center, and John has done a wonderful job. He's in his first year as principal with us here after coming to us. We stole him from Grant County, and he's doing a great job expanding the number of opportunities and offerings for our students, so we're real excited about that.
You know, I know Jimmy. We graduated from the same high school back in the day. Played actually football with my brother in grade school.
Yes.
And first cousin. I went to school with his first cousin, Sandy Blair, at Porter Elementary, now Johnson County. So,
yeah, I think Jimmy said something about basketball and challenging you to a free throw shooting contest or something.
But Jimmy's been a great asset for us, but also a good guardian angel with a lot of things over the course of time. We appreciate Jimmy's involvement.
And Jimmy does a fantastic job here in the district. He's got, obviously I think we're the 22nd largest district in the state, so he has a lot of Chromebooks and computers and issues, and he does a fantastic job managing it all. And he's really doing a great job from a technology perspective at looking past the technology just as a tool. Something that we talk about a lot in our office is, a Chromebook or a computer or whatever it is like a pencil if you don't use it effectively. And to that end, we have someone else in our district here that's not up here with us today, Stella Pollard. I mean, she's not up here. She's right back there. Stella Pollard is, we created a new position this year. It's called an Instructional Technology Coordinator. And she is working with all of our staff across the district to implement Chromebooks, the one-to-one initiative that we have, and to do it in a way that, again, pushes our teachers. Let's push the learning to how we can most effectively use technology. And she's a rock star. So we're very pleased that.
And we appreciate that. No, the people side of education technology was a big thing that we've tried over the past year. You know, I've been traveling the state talking with superintendents. So we appreciate you taking that into consideration. I think you're from, is it 6th to 12th grade, one-to-one here? Yeah. And even down lower, it's not take-home, but you have them down maybe even down to the third grade level.
Pretty much one-to-one, 3rd through 12.
Yeah.
And we have enough devices pretty much probably one-to-one if everybody's in attendance every day.
Yeah.
Over 6,000 devices for Chromebooks.
So what else would you like to know us know about your district?
Sure. Well, I'd like to say a couple things. First, you referenced two of our wonderful folks. A student, Wandell Robinson, was Mr. Football in the state, and unfortunately, he did not choose the Ohio State University or the University of Kentucky. I'm an Ohio State grad, so I was really pulling that way. He ended up going to Nebraska, but we're very pleased for him and his family. He is just a wonderful young man, and he had obviously a phenomenal
I
career.
watched him a couple of times. He was something else.
He is like that old show Tecmo Bowl. He was Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl in those high school games. And Angie Bevan was a Milken Award winner who we just found out just about a month or so ago, and we had to keep it quiet. And so that was announced. What is it, a week ago?
Last Tuesday.
A week ago, last Monday, actually. And wow, that was a phenomenal day for our district. And Angie Bevan is just an amazing teacher. But I also like to talk to you about something that we're doing. Again, one thing we're really proud of is we're all about creating opportunities for students. And something that we implemented this year, and we stole this, there's a few other districts across the state that are doing this. That's what you do in education. You steal good ideas. And we created actually an alternative high school pathway that is actually, we call it William Cofield High School. It's a high school in name, and it's actually a couple of rooms that we have here at this facility. One thing that we saw in terms of what we've been doing and what we're offering students is not every student fits into a traditional model. Not every student can be at their most effective if they're sitting in a row with 27 other students from 8 to 3:30. And so what we tried to do is create an alternative means for these students, both in terms of attendance and graduation. Both of our high schools here in Franklin County require 26 hours for graduation. The state requires 22. So what we wanted to do with this particular idea was to provide a pathway for students who, for whatever reason, needed a different setting. In all honesty, this alternative pathway allows students to kind of have a flexible attendance. So a student, and we're going to hear from one in just a couple of minutes, a student could maybe come from 8 to 12 and then go to work to support their family. Some students have hardships outside of what we see every day. So we wanted to find a flexible atmosphere using an alternative pathway, using technology to help provide the curriculum. And William Cofield has done that. We started this program in October. And I think how many students are we currently
36.
at? So 36 students, and how many graduations?
We've already had 15.
So we've had 15 students since fall break that have graduated that frankly maybe would not have otherwise. And it's nothing about it being easier. It's about it being different. And it's about an alternative path. So we've set up the environment down there. There's a lab setting, and then there's a relaxed setting with couches and a coffee machine and refrigerator, and kind of set up like the college atmosphere, so that we honor the students' time when they are able to come and work on their studies. All of the instruction, we have teachers in the classroom. We have 3 different teachers that are facilitating at William Cofield. and it's all standards-based. It's all tied directly to the Kentucky Core Academic Standards, and it's just been a wonderful opportunity for our students. Jim, is there anything you want to add to that? Jim, by the way, has really driven that program, and he is the principal of William Cofield High School. So,
I think the big thing I'd like to add is that the working world has changed, and we're aware of that, mostly due to advances in technology, of course, but there are some consistencies that have remained over the years, and that would be the ability to effectively communicate, to collaborate with others, to critically think, to show up to work on time. So what we want to do is harness the skills that have always been necessary to be effective in the working world, but develop those skills through a different learning environment as compared to a traditional 7-period day. And we think that this is an environment that allows an opportunity for students to still prove mastery of the standards, just as the state requires us to do, still develop those skills that are necessary to be effective in the working world, but do it in a way that's different than the traditional setting that's been around since the existence of education. So what we're trying to do is match the changes that have occurred in the working world while still maintaining that consistent of basic soft skills that every student needs in every working environment, but in a different pathway.
and if I could add, one of the things that's kind of unique about this particular pathway is students actually have to withdraw and unenroll from their high school and enroll in William Cofield High School, which allows them then to have this, it's an A5 school, so there's an alternative attendance requirement, and it allows them also then to earn a diploma based on those 22 hours versus the 26. So if a student, and this is really meant for seniors, upperclassmen, this is not a program that we're really gearing towards freshmen and sophomores. This is for kiddos that for whatever reason may struggle to get to 26. But I think, and what we're seeing is we can get them to 22. And this pathway allows them that flexibility that they need. And frankly, that's what we're all about in education, at least we should be, is finding ways to help our students succeed. Students like this one.
So Abby, tell us your story.
Exactly which part? There's a whole lot that led me to this school. My mom moved around a lot when I was younger. This is my 15th school I've ever been to. I've never been to a school more than twice, maybe, my entire life. I've never lived anywhere longer than 2 years. So it was hard being the new kid a lot, moving through different counties and different states. So I had heard about this school and the opportunity, to be able to go to one last school, it was one last thing. And when I first, was filling out the application for it and, going through the interview, and after the interview, it was kind of like a peace had set in, like, this is going to happen, this is the last school I'm going to be able to, or going to have to go to. And the opportunities that I've gotten from this school, I didn't think I was going to be able to graduate until maybe 2-3 years from now, and I'm graduating this year, and that it's still crazy to hear out loud. And this school it's really been a lifesaver, not just in my case, but for all the kids that have been through it. Everybody kind of has their own backstory that's led them to this school.
Right.
And a lot of people don't think that it is a school, but it is. It is something that each of us can take, and we've created so many things inside of it that we keep teasing our teachers. You're not going to get kids like us again. It's not going to be the same opportunities that we do things that kind of break up the day too. I don't like staring at a screen all day, and that's all the kids. You don't want to be stuck on one thing all day. So we're lucky enough to have teachers that bring in things for us, and we have like life skill classes, and we'll go through and we'll do a craft that day, or we'll make something, or we'll learn about something through a video. And we our biggest thing is we like to play Uno. It's the funniest thing, and it's so silly, but it's something that's really helped break up our day, and it's brought a lot of kids out of their shells, including me. I'm a shy kid. So to be able to make friends through something like that, and to have the school and everything about it. I don't know what I would do without it.
You were telling me earlier how many graduates you've had so far?
We've had 15 graduates, and we've had 36 students that have been enrolled, yes. And it's really about just creating, like I said earlier, a different learning environment, and she added it. It's not just about the academic component. Yes, we have our students prove mastery of the standards because that's what we're required to do. But it's also about getting them to become more socially able to succeed when they're going into the working world. And then we have a nice, wonderful partnership with Chamber of Commerce. And so when we go into March, we're going to be implementing something called Frankfurt Impact. And it's a collaboration with the Chamber where we'll have community members, business leaders come in, sit down with our students. We'll look at career interest inventory, something that we've done 6th grade through 12th grade in our district, and all districts do. But we want to take it to another level at looking at shadowing different occupations. So our students will have that opportunity, and that will lead them to really start considering post-secondary options. So for example, we may have a student that enters the manufacturing world here in Franklin County, not even be aware that that job once existed, and have their classes paid for if that's what they choose to do, or their training. But it's really all about getting them ready for the working world, to have a life that they really want to have.
Good run and go. Yeah.
You couldn't have said that any better. We got the right guy doing this. And thank you for sharing that, Abby. That's, the other thing I wanted to mention is in education, a lot of people don't want to recognize the fact we're in the customer service business, and we really focus as a district on customer service. And in education, we have a lot of customers, the community, obviously all of our parents, and all of our staff members, but our biggest customers are kiddos like Abby. And we have to find a way to meet the needs of our customers. And that's what this is all about. It is simply finding a way to provide a service. Our job is to prepare them to be great citizens as soon as they walk out our doors. And I'm so proud of Abby and the students that are taking advantage of this opportunity.
I know in technology, one of the draws I know was for me as a student is for differentiated learning styles. And so it's always been a plus side for that. And definitely helped me learn where I was stuck, and someone recognized that. So I appreciate you all reaching out. And Abby, thank you for being with us
Thank you for having me.
Well, and you mentioned the technology side. We are in a world now where a person can achieve a doctorate through online learning at the university level. So what we want to do is implement standards-based learning through an online platform. And Casey Tarter, who's working with the kids every single day in the trenches, has made a powerful impact in terms of not just checking whether or not they master the standards, but teaching them how to set goals and become self-advocates. And when they do struggle, well, how do you respond? How do you respond to that productive struggle? Not just through academics, but getting ready to go out into the working world. How do you respond when something becomes difficult? Where's that grit?
And with technology, this is all about, we're talking about technology today, and obviously we wouldn't be able to do this program without technology. We use a program called Apex, and it's great, it's working very well. But if we just put Abby on Apex and threw our hands up, it wouldn't work. It would not be successful. It is a combination of fantastic teachers like Casey and like the other two folks that work with Abby on a daily basis that makes this work.
You did a good job describing that. I appreciate that. That was very helpful. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll go on to our next topic, which is around Kentucky Educational Television. I get a chance to work with these folks quite often to see them firsthand. And I always will say during my time with Kentucky Department of Education, this is a good example of how different state agencies should work together and try to find the strengths of both and work together versus being in competition. And I've seen that. And also my favorite saying about KET, they're a lot of fun to work with. And these are really good people doing some awesome things. I want to highlight some of that. The first item I sent you before they speak was about the Kentucky K-12 Schools Safety Forum that KT hosted not long ago. I think most people are aware that the top two items in the Senate and the House are House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 1 around school safety. I would encourage you all to take a look at that clip that I sent you at the link. It takes about an hour. But the part that you'll like is from a legislator's point of view, but the other really good part, they had a lot of students on there, give them guidance, and it appears, just like you're focusing on the Abbeys of the world, the equipment, getting everyone across the finish line, they also listen to students about what did they want the House and Senate and us in general with adults to take the approach. And I really like what came out of at least the overall thing. They want to more hearten this school with your heart, hearten versus harden it, which I think is a good approach. And from a variety of things is don't let technology be the primary solution for a behavioral people issue. That you need to have people involved. And it needs to be probably weighted 95% to the people side. I know, at least my role in school safety, I try to remind folks, whether it be legislators or leaders, of all the existing technology tools and approaches that we already have in place, and as simple as accept use policy and digital driver's license, and properly setting expectations of the effectiveness in preventing, identifying ahead of time something through technology, the plus and minuses of that, because there's immediate reliance on, well, this will solve all the problems and we're all done, and it really is a 90-95% kind of people issue that you have to address. The other thing that came from, and I was in Florida 2 weeks ago, and they had a panel of folks that were involved, and I know it was around the Valentine's Day, the violent incident that happened in Parkland schools there. So there's a panel that I was part of, along with people around the United States. The part that I really like that I think most people can relate to, the best early warning and prevention system is engage parents and guardians, parental involvement of what their child is doing at school and away from school. But also the adults in the school play a role. Parents, school custodians, I know, get a good heartbeat of what's going on. Cooks around the school, mental health counselors, school counselors get a good vibe on what's going on. But also there's a big role in the parent at home. And I know as a parent of four, and they knew this, and people know this, I inspected their phones randomly. I would tell them, hey, I'm paying you for a data plan, I'm going to see that phone once in a while. And so just the engagement, involvement of that. But also we have a lot of other things. I know with our Infinite Campus Parent Portal, the purpose of that is to keep an engaged parent. But the part I really liked about it is the major focus, and that's why I would like for you all to watch that, the tremendous amount of focus in on the people side of it versus just let's find the one thing that solves it, particularly on the hardware or a technology solution to that. So that is well worth it. It is well done by the team and a broad view of that, so I encourage you to take a look at that. The other part I introduced Tanya a little bit earlier, I wanted her to make sure you're all aware of, and some people work closely with their team, just about the folks in KT that work with our schools, the people that come to KT, and also some of the products that we offer.
Well, thanks, David. We're really glad to be here with you all today, and I just want to take a minute to talk to you. I'll start with PBS Learning Media. We have a few slides here that we'll share, but it really gets to that point of making sure that our teachers have access to the content that meets those various learning styles. So Abby actually even mentioned sometimes we watch a video, and that's an instructional video. And PBS Learning Media is a repository of content that's standards-based that teachers can search. We've had over 2 million streams on PBS Learning Media in this last year, and right here in Franklin County, we're looking at about 1,000 streams a month. And sometimes teachers are downloading those videos onto local devices so that they can show them over and over again in subsequent classes. So we know that usage number is really probably higher than it shows. But what is so wonderful about Learning Media is it also has integration with things like Clever and Schoology and Google Classroom so that teachers can take these assignments and standards-based videos and put them in action for the kids to learn either in class or outside of class for additional information. Also, I will just brag on Franklin County and Frankfurt specifically that you all are constantly in the top 20 of PBS learning media views here in the state, and so there's a lot of usage there. There's always room, though, across the state for growth in that. And to help get the word out about that, we have education consultants, and this is where David talks about we're really an extension of one another's teams. Our EdCons are located throughout the state, and you'll see here in these various regions, and you can get their contact information at ket.org/education. So you'll see how to contact your education consultant, but they will come right in to your school, do professional development. They'll work with you in your classroom to help with usage of technology in the classroom, but also broadcast production, green screen usage, those kinds of things. And so they're always happy to help. They're really our lifeline into the schools. The other thing that I want to mention this morning is our media lab. And so some of you may have been to KET. We have a media lab there where we do green screen training, production training, Minecraft EDU. We're doing all kinds of different workshops. We had about 3,000 children in KET last year. We've got school buses pulling up almost daily. It adds a real spark of life to our existence in Lexington. I know you all in the schools get that every day, but we love having that infusion of energy. We've also had the opportunity for the last couple of years, and we're able to continue it through grant support to reimburse transportation costs. So oftentimes we know that that's a barrier for schools to actually take field trips like this to come to KET. And so if you go to that web address at ket.org/media lab form, you'll be able to apply, let us know, and we'll set a date for training. So we're really excited to be able to partner with your schools in all of these ways. And I could go on, but I'm going to save the time because I know that Tim Bischoff has some really exciting news to share on the technology front. So I will turn it over to him.
All right. Well, thanks to David. Thank you all for inviting us to talk to you today about KET and some big changes that are happening, really sort of the KET you don't see. So behind the scenes at KET. And let me change the PowerPoint here to make sure we have the right one up.
And Tanya, while he's doing that, I would say that we worked together on the transition from Discovery to PBS Learning Media. So what you were talking about is a free service. I'd also say that I know for our audience, some play the role of they're the primary lead for instructional technology and the pure technology service administrative, and some of you are just in the role of pure technology. So I do ask when you watch these webcasts, if you're in that role, try to make that person in your district aware of these areas that may be outside of yours, and don't count on anyone else's informing them. So we kind of count on you to carry that torch, whether you're in that primary role or not for us. So that's why for Tanya's portion there, really hits on the instructional technology in the classroom. So if you make sure the right people know that, if that's not something that you lead are responsible for.
Okay. Well, all right. So I know that all of you probably woke up this morning, you thought to yourself, what is the broadcast spectrum repack, right? You were thinking that? Everybody here, yeah, there's those in the back. They were thinking that. Well, you're going to find out today. So I want to share with you about the spectrum repack. And this is a congressionally mandated repacking of the broadcast spectrum. And it affects TV stations and also affects wireless companies. So it's making more spectrum available to wireless companies. So AT&T and T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint, they're going to be offering enhanced mobile services as a result of this. What this really means for us in TV is that we're moving to new channels. So TV stations are going to be moving to new channels throughout this year and the next year, and that's going to make some of that old spectrum, that old channel space available to these wireless companies. What's happening here in Kentucky, though, is that all 16 of KET's full-power television stations are being reassigned to new channels. And so that will impact all of our viewers across the state. This is the KET statewide network that you see here. It covers all of the state of Kentucky. It reaches into the 7 surrounding states. That's 10 media markets, and it's more than 5.5 million people. But you may ask, how does KET's broadcast signal get from the network center in Lexington to your home or to your school? Well, KET statewide broadcast network, it provides all of our educational programming and public safety services using 122 microwave radios. There are 18 broadcast towers, everything from 100 feet tall to 1,000 feet tall. These house 16 full-power, high-power UHF channels across the state, and then we have 3 low-power UHF channels that are in low-lying small communities near Falmouth and Augusta and Louisa, Kentucky. Now, you've been doing the math along with me here. 19 broadcast towers is what we have. But you may say, well, hold on, you have 16 transmitters and 18 towers. How do you get to 19 broadcast antennas? Well, the reason we have 18 towers and 19 antennas is that in Louisville, we operate 2 stations, and they actually both sit on the same tower, which happens to be in southern Indiana over in Floyd's Knobs. So KET's broadcast network statewide, I talked about that microwave interconnect. This is what that looks like. So the programs that you're watching, they jump through a series of microwave hops. Those are the white circles on this map, and they make their way to our transmission sites, which are the yellow circles on the map. So you can see if you live near to one of these and you're receiving KET over the air, then that is where you're receiving from, or if your cable company is receiving KET and retransmitting it to you, that's where they're receiving it from. So that microwave interconnect system is really, really important. Remember, those white circles that you just saw. KET uses 122 microwave radios to interconnect these 15 full-power transmission sites. And our goal as part of the spectrum repacking project is we're upgrading this microwave system to completely an IP-based protocol. And previously we had about 80 radios that have been upgraded, and this project is going to complete those remaining 42, which is really exciting because we'll have greater capacity to send content all throughout the state using this microwave interconnect system, which has greater capacity. We also, as part of this project, we have to modify KET's towers. So those towers that are located all throughout the state, before we could get started mounting new heavy antennas on our towers, and these antennas, they can weigh more than a ton, we had to reinforce our towers to meet modern safety and engineering standards. This included tower base and guy anchor reinforcements. We poured concrete, we fabricated, installed additional steel. It's about a $3.4 million project. 13 of our sites that we're working on are complete. We have 1 still under construction, and that is our WKLE site near Lexington. But let me show you what we're actually doing to these towers. This is our tower, about a 500-foot tower right there in Paducah. And I'm going to show you what we did around the base of that tower. This is the base, the concrete foundation, the original 1967, 1968 foundation. The workers dug out around the concrete, cleared the earth from around it in photo number 1. Then you can see in photo number 2, there's the concrete forms in place, the rebar, and then in 3, that beautiful brand new concrete. Look at that, that looks good. Pour it in there, and of course they covered it back up with earth in photo number 4, and that reinforcement is all complete. Again, to take on all of this weight to put a new antenna on top of this tower that's required because the old antennas can't broadcast on the new channels. So here's some of the steel reinforcements that are being added to the tower, and you can see the steel supports that are being fastened together to get a sense of the scope and size. I mean, 3 grown men right there working on it, so you just get an idea of even how big the base of this tower is. As steel goes up the side of the tower, you can look on the left there, you see the pulley system there hoisting it up from the ground up the tower, going further up on the left and then further up on the right. I'm going to zoom in on that picture on the right, and you probably didn't notice those 3 men on the tower, climbing up on the tower there, and they will fasten that steel into place as sort of an additional exoskeleton to reinforce that tower. Now, it's important to note that this tower reinforcement is incredibly dangerous, and this is not KET's tower. This is a tower near Springfield, Missouri, that on April the 19th last year collapsed. It's actually the 2,000-foot tower of Ozarks Public Television. And when it collapsed, it injured three men and killed 1 man who was the owner of the tower climbing company. The crew was carrying out preliminary work about 100 feet up on this tower, and they were installing bracing designed to strengthen the tower. Well, the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, they investigated the cause of this collapse, and they found that the bolts were not removed properly during a bracing procedure. So this just really underscores in any of our work in technology how dangerous some of this work can be, and certainly working on any sort of a communications tower is very dangerous work, and why KET has been working with professional engineering firms as well as our construction contractors at every step along the way to check and double check every step of the process.
I would say also the thing I point out is the precision is required. Not only that, the safety, but in technology arena, the precision is required. So there was a well, it seems like this is not that big a deal.
Right.
It's a big deal in our world.
Right, and everything drawn to spec and planned, and certainly taking great care and oversight with engineers when you're doing construction work is incredibly important. Well, I want to go back for just a minute to how does that TV signal get from KET to your home. So let's take a look at this slide, and you see there's the TV station. It is transmitted right there kind of through that dotted line around it. That's the microwave network, kind of going on the other side of that dotted line. And the microwave network takes you to the TV transmitter. Once you get to the transmitter, that's a small room at the transmission site, and it goes up the tower, that additional black line there on the broadcasting tower. That's the transmission line going all the way up to the top to the antenna on top of the tower, and then it broadcasts out to your home or to your school or to your cable company. So a few additional items that it requires for KET to switch to new channels across the state are also new transmitters. So those are sitting at each of our transmission sites in those buildings, and they look about like this. So it's a rack of equipment, it's about 6 feet tall, and we are installing 16 of these transmitters all around the state. It also requires transmission lines. So you have to get from that transmitter 1,000 feet up that tower and connect to the antenna on top of the tower. And I want to show you a little bit about what transmission line looks like. So if you see here, this is transmission line, and this is what we call 4-inch flexible line. And it's not really that flexible, but you can see the inner conductor there and the insulation in the outer conductor. And I'll pass that down, let folks around here see it. But it is flexible when you compare it to what we have, which is rigid line. And this is 3-inch rigid line. It also comes in a 6-inch form, but I didn't want to get that kind of workout today.
It is heavy.
It's very heavy.
And people were carrying this up?
Yeah, they hoist that up and attach that right there into the transmission tower. So you get a sense of just the tons of weight that exist on communications towers and on broadcast towers. And if you can imagine, 1,000 feet of any of these types of transmission line, it's very high power, and they have to be very robust to handle that high power, and certainly to get that signal all the way up to the antenna, which looks a bit like this. So this is one of KET's new antennas. It's being manufactured, and there you see in the manufacturing plant, slots are being drilled into the sides. You're going to see why here in just a minute. Here is where assembly is taking place, and that gentleman right there is actually working on tuning the antenna. And then as the process finishes, you see that orange radome. We call that a radome, and it's an outer covering that protects the antenna itself itself from weather and protecting it from all the sleet and snow and wind that's going to hit it from way up in the air. Now, this is a big piece of equipment. That's 43.5 feet long, and this antenna actually is intended for our Moorhead transmission site. This antenna weighs 1.5 tons. So to get it there, it goes on that truck right there, and it arrived at Moorhead when it was snowing just a couple of weeks ago. They installed it in about a week, and it is now on top of the KET tower in Moorhead. We have folks working as I speak right now in Hazard to replace that antenna. The transmitters being installed there as well. And Moorhead and Hazard, as you can see on our schedule or on our chart here, they are the first that two transmission sites that are going to be moved to new channels, and that will be complete in June of this summer. And then the rest of the KET network, you can see, they will all be complete toward October of this year. And so as we complete this, it's going to be very important that we hit these deadlines, because other TV stations, they're changing channels at the same time. We have to coordinate with them, and if all continues to go according to schedule, and it is, we'll hit all of these deadlines and have a robust KET statewide network here for all the folks we serve.
So how is this, because I think this impacts two groups, it impacts schools. So we were talking a little bit earlier, Jimmy, about some of yours are connected to cable here, some are not.
Right.
And so what would that experience be for Franklin County for both those scenarios?
Right, so Franklin County, they're using a cable system in their schools provided by Frankfurt Plant Board, and so KET will work directly with the cable company, the local cable company, and we'll make sure that they switch to our new channels as we move into these phases. However, if a school is receiving KET over the air with an antenna, maybe it's an antenna on the roof, it's a blade antenna in a classroom, if an individual teacher has an antenna in their classroom that maybe isn't connected to the rest of the system, then they will have to rescan their television in order to receive the new channels. So you might recall 10 years ago, we went from standard definition TV to high definition TV, and all the TV stations were saying, you got to rescan, you got to rescan. This is going to be really similar, but it's most important if you're receiving KET through over the air, you have that antenna sitting there near your television, you'll need to rescan to get us.
And then about the 5G, I keep on hearing about the 5G this opens up. So this, I guess, could impact schools, but it mainly is for the consumer.
It really is, and the way that wireless companies are providing services continues to change. The bottom line of it is, of course, all of us want to get bigger files faster anywhere in the world, right? Anytime. Just that little thing. It is a pretty massive sort of expectation when you think about it, and the wireless companies are working really hard they want to meet that need and providing that kind of connectivity. And so this repack is going to help them make that possible. We have a phone going. Let's see, wireless company ringing right there.
Can you please escort that person out of the room?
And as they roll out these 5G services, the spectrum's being cleared for that, and we're hopeful that there may be some additional opportunities, not just within the wireless company services, but also partnering with public broadcasting in Kentucky and across the country, that on the other side of this entire project, I mentioned the microwave network, it's also the transmission network, it has greater capacity. And so we are eagerly looking and working to see how can we use this to provide greater educational services to everybody, into schools and to homes all across Kentucky.
And just a reminder, I should have said this at the beginning, KT is celebrating the 50th year of broadcasting, and most Kentuckians, I hope, were aware of, they were the very first in the nation to provide educational television to every district and school in a state. And so you've had some technology that's really old. So this kind of worked to your favor to replace some things that they probably need to be replacing.
Right, and it is a great opportunity to have to provide to Kentucky really a state-of-the-art broadcast transmission system. And you see how difficult the implementation of it is across the board, but but, we liken it to literally, we are on the air while we're building a statewide broadcast network. The first time it was built, it wasn't on the air yet. You actually build it and then you turn it on. And so it's an interesting experience to rebuild the bicycle and take parts off of it and put them back on while you're cruising down the street.
And I know KT also plays a role with our STLP events. I know you're at our regional ones, and I think I got the right date here, Tanya, for April 18th. I think
that's right.
I think we're there, so I know KT's part of you guys webcast it last year or broadcast it
We'll
last year.
stream it live
Stream it
again
live
this
this year. Yeah, so
We're really excited about it.
Looking forward to that. I wanted to make sure folks are aware too that we have Go Soapbox open. This is your way to give feedback. We have 6 poll questions and 1 discussion question, but also any question that you have, and we take it as bubbles up. So for those that are looking at this, for anything we've discussed, especially with the K team, has anything bubbled up that they address while they're up here that you can take a look at on Go Soapbox? I guess they're looking at it now, just to see if that's the case. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank
you for
Appreciate
having
it. Like I say, KT's a lot of fun to work with. Keep on doing good stuff.
Thank
We
you.
will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Dee Dee talking about, and is the headline here, is our school report card from at least a couple different major sources gets an A in its rating.
That's good news. We've had a couple of different groups that have put something out, commending us on the new school report card and what it provides and the difference it makes in viewing data, because we've gone from having something that was very tabular, very data-oriented to something that's much more visual as a landing page. And some folks don't go beyond that. They stop there, and if they get what they need, they don't need to go any further. As you drill down, you definitely get into the tables still, and there's still some, room for improvements. And some of the stuff we're doing now is we're soliciting feedback from different groups. We've gone out and asked, KSBA to include it in their newsletter. We've gone out to the PTA Association, so they're sharing it with their members. Site-based decision-making groups are sharing. We've gone out to the Kentucky Realtors. We're really trying to get some parent input. People that are not education speak and they're not doing all the education stuff, that can see if it's meeting their needs. So a lot of work's still going on. We think, okay, we've got year 1 done. It's not done. We still have a finance tab that has what comes out at the spring following the close of the year. And the reason for that is financial data doesn't get audited and approved until the March time frame. So the expectation is that data that part of the card is up in May. It'll be much more improved than what we've seen in the past. Bright Guys has a lot of experience, has brought a lot of good ideas to the table for the finance card. They've done this in Colorado and some others for other districts, so it's good stuff, and we're excited about seeing what goes out there. But even finishing up this year, that's not where we're working on completely. We're already working on year 2. It's already February. School report card should open up for districts to start looking at data in July. That's not much time. So our first round of feedback that we're collecting, we're asking for feedback by the end of this month. So if you've got folks that would like to give feedback, there's a couple opportunities. There's opportunities for just a quick survey. I can send you a link if you reach out to me. There's also opportunities to have some in-person discussion. Come in and talk to Bright Bites in Frankfurt. For those parents that are right here in Frankfurt, it's a perfect opportunity to come in. And it doesn't have to just be parents, but I will say that's the audience. Even if you're not a parent, we're trying to put your parent hat on and give us some perspective on that. And then there's also opportunities for some virtual interviews, so that if you're not near Frankfurt and you don't feel like you've got people that want to come in but they would like to have a say, you might be getting questions locally. And this is an opportunity to say, well, there's an opportunity to provide feedback to the state on this. We do create these school report cards for schools and districts. They are, this year, the first time, they're a unique URL for every school, every district. So if you've not updated your website with the new link, it is new. Please do so, because you're going to the wrong place. You're going to the old card still. So you want to make sure that if your district site has a link to school report card, link directly to your district site. You can do that now. If you've got a school card, a school link, make sure it's directly to the school link. They can still get back to the other parts of the card, but it gets those people that are viewing it to the information that they want first. and then they can drill in and get further information about other schools and so forth from there. So we really want to, and I'm talking today about really the Bright Bites piece because that's where we're looking, kind of finishing up. But I don't want folks to forget that our school report card is more than just the Bright Bites school piece. It's, the whole thing. The parent portal. Do you have your parent portal turned on? Is it used in your districts? Is it used in your schools? Are your teachers keeping it updated for parents? Parents are coming to these sites and they're really most interested in information about their students, about their kids. And we can't, at the state level, give them that information about their individual kids. We actually have to suppress a lot of small counts that we can't produce. Nothing can be identifiable. But we are providing them information on the parent portal, so they do have information that they can go to the Infinite Campus site. Ultimately, it really directs them back to you on how to get access. So make sure that information is easily found on your websites on how to get access to the parent portal, what they need to do to get their user ID passwords. And then the other thing is there's some communication that is required. We've got a KRS that says that every school report card has to be shared with parents. So there's a lot of ways to do that. It used to be easy. We used to have a parent card, and we'd send that parent card and pick that card home, and it was a one-pager, maybe front and back. So it used to fold up into three fold type of card, but now it's much bigger than that. So we really need folks sending out information. You can use your technology to meet that requirement. Parent portal provides that information out. If you just send the link, that meets that requirement. If you're sending it out through email, that meets that requirement. But you might have a group of parents that don't have an electronic communication method, and if that's the case, then you need to make sure that we are getting that information out to them. We've created a template that can be used. It can be easily updated just with your own school name and your own URL. That's going to go out to DACs probably next week. So look for that if you just want it. But you can do it yourself, just creating a flyer with the URL and share that information. So just some reminders on the technology standpoint on the school report card, and really we are open to some feedback there.
So let me ask you a couple of, part of the feedback we're looking to is from the school perspective in the district. Are these the right things that we should be asking way up front? So parents is one, but part of this, are these the right, and is it fair that we're pushing these, toward the top? But also with the parent portal, we are interested in percentage of your parents that are actually on it, because I talked a little bit about school safety. There's a lot of different plus sides of an engaged parent, and as a dad of 4, I know as they get older, the kids are less likely to share. And so I know it was the Infinite Campus portal was a way, and that is a key part of our school report card. So do you all have a feel for how many of your parents, and I know some can come to the students' accounts, some of the parents are using the portal?
I don't know if we have any hard data that tells how many users we have. I know we get requests quite often that even come to my office that parents want to get reset or get access. So
Right.
it goes to the schools, the counselors, and our IT specialists.
I know I can answer that by saying there needs to be more. What we do at central office is when parents get to me, they're usually, kind of upset about something or other, right? And generally, 98% of the world's problems are lack of communication. So we always share this first, because, generally it might be something along the lines of, well, my son or daughter didn't get the grade that they wanted. Well, have you looked at Infinite Campus? Have you looked at your parent portal? So we always share information on how to do that, and it's a fantastic service that we have, and we're grateful that we have it, by the way, because it answers a lot of questions. It really does calm the situation down, because you can just say, here's the data, and
Here's the assignments they didn't turn in, because
Exactly.
you can see it. I know as a dad, and people have heard me talk about it, my son, I hate to pick on my own son, but when I would see like a 0 for an assignment, I'd take a picture of it with my phone and send it to him immediately and say, explain. Those stopped. But as a parent, if you're not aware of those and just assume everything's fine, because a lot of times it's gotten in a bad spot and they think somebody's done something wrong. When you take a look at it, it spells out. So that's why in our school report card, we have 4 components of it. It's the most important part. Because for parents, so whatever we need to do, and even in the wording on the school report card to get more parents to ask questions about it, we want to do that.
A couple of tidbits on that I'll add before you move on is the fact that with Infinite Campus doing the early warning system for us, one of the triggers that they found
For dropouts.
is, as a predictor, is lack of use of parent portal. It's not all, but that's one of the factors that goes into the early warning dropout. And they found over time, looking at 10 years of data, those parents that are engaged and have that information, those students are less likely to drop out. So that's interesting. We do have a report on our website under one of the cases pages, I think is an other, that shows every school, every district, and what percentage. I will tell you that it's not perfect because we know a lot of folks use it very heavily at their high schools, and middle schools maybe, but they don't use it at their elementary school. So, that doesn't show where it's being used. So we're continuing to work on refining of that report. But if you're interested in seeing how much is used, go to the K6 other page, and if you just search on that, you'll get that page. And I think it's at the bottom of the page. You can see that.
I think that's us as district also. We have to be more attentive to the needs of parents in terms of having really true parent portal nights, for lack of a better word. We have to be intentional as opposed to just sending home a form that says, here's how you get on the parent portal. We need to bring them in, feed them some spaghetti or whatever that will get them in, and then walk them through not just that, but several other pieces. And I think that we have been talking about that as a district. Let's be intentional, and let's make sure that we communicate effectively at all times.
The other parts of it, as you took a look at it, what were your thoughts? Because, we have the main landing page in particular. So what are your thoughts from it, you saw Franklin County's from your perspective?
Yeah, any visual is always better. People don't want to just look at numbers. People want to be able to see and show in visual form growth. And the thing that we're focused on as a district, our buzzword this year, and really should be every year, is growth. So any way in which the new report card can really show how we're growing. We obviously understand a lot of the data is a snapshot in time, and sometimes that's difficult to reflect. But we like the visual aspect of it, and being able to see it just all there. And early returns have been great from everything that I've heard.
And you make a very good point, because one of the things that we want to build into is that trend functionality where you can actually see those trends.
Right.
We started with 1 year of data this year, but even now we're talking about how can we add data from prior years, especially around the assessments that haven't changed, that are comparable. It's much more difficult to share accountability over time because the accountability model just changed. But there are some things that we can add some trend data that would add a lot of value to the school report card. Absolutely.
Like I said, I'd encourage you all to click on those links. I know we spent some time on the pure technology portions of it. We're talking about the overall school report card. And to get the reviews by these 2 different organizations who are typically pretty critical is a real plus side. I know we had a discussion question. I don't know if there's something that came up worth that that's worth bringing up. But we did want to point it out, and we got a big phase 2 with the school finance that's
we don't have any thoughts that are being shared here, but continue to add if you think anything, or reach out to me on opportunities, because David's very correct. We want all sources of feedback. Some of these limited directed things that Bright Bites is doing right now around parents, but we do want feedback from all groups, and schools and districts are very
important. And once again, if you say I play just really the pure technical role, we're asking you to reach out to the person in your district that has this and communicate with them, as we're doing with all these subjects.
And one of the things that we'll continue to need to work towards, and so we see some improvements, are on those alternative schools, like this alternative school that you saw today. When you go to those cards, they don't show much, because they're not always getting the accountability data. They're not sometimes using Infinite Campus in the same way as the other schools. They're not part of SAR. So there's a lot of gaps that we're trying to find ways of closing up, so that when you see those schools, you're still seeing a good experience and some data that represents the school well.
Sometimes the tool, in all honesty, is a little bit limiting. If I can make an analogy, it's kind of like if you take a bushel of apples and you take them to a truck weigh station to weigh. In a lot of cases, we're looking at, in the case of William Cofield High School, we have 36 students. It's really hard to paint a big brush picture of students that enrolled in that school in October, and some of them have already graduated. So it's difficult in a case like that.
And that's why we want to hear the feedback from everyone with it, how we make it better. And that's what part I was talking about earlier. What parts of it are fair from a district's perspective? Obviously, we want parent input, and what parts are not fair that we need to address. Chuck Austin's up next. We're going to be talking about something that I always tell folks, say, what is Active Directory? And my very simple thing is, you can't get on anything in a school building in Kentucky if that does not go in right. And we've had an experience for quite some time. People maybe even be spoiled that it's up and so reliable, but we're at a phase of having to do some upgrades. And so part of it, what I've asked Chuck to do, because even though we've had allowed the Google Gmail part, people say, well, we really don't need Active Directory. And so Chuck here is to educate and make people aware that every district in the state, the awareness of the importance of Active Directory, no matter if they transition to Google email or not.
Great. Well, thank you, David. And, one of many responsibilities that we as EdTech leaders, both at the local level and at the state level have is not only keeping our ear to the ground on new and emerging technologies, but sometimes even more importantly, making sure that existing services that we've been providing for years continue to operate. And right now, I just know at the state level, and Mike and Phil and David will be talking about these over the next few months, we've got several what I like to call planes on the runway, all right, of big services that need to be upgraded to make sure that we can maintain that level of service and access to our school districts. Active Directory is one of those services that we have to upgrade this year. So we did want to spend a little bit of time today and kind of talk a little bit about that, but more importantly, talk about what it is and what it's doing. In a nutshell, it's a couple of servers that are 5 years old running some software that's really old. All right, that we've got to make sure that sometime this calendar year we replace. We know that. But I think it's more important that the average person understand what exactly is it when we say Active Directory. To a superintendent, okay, what the heck are you guys talking about? So I want to explain a little bit of that today, kind of maybe talk about our vision for it moving forward, because we feel like a lot of our school district EdTech leaders have already laid a path to where we want to go statewide, and we want to be able to duplicate that across every district in the state. But at the end of the day, Active Directory is nothing more than a technology system that defines who you are, your user account, your password, okay, what you have access to, that would be your permissions, okay, and under what conditions. When can I access it? From where can I access it? And how often? So in a nutshell, it's that. But it also does a whole lot more behind the scenes that most people don't realize. Okay, so for example, in every district in the state, in every school, in every classroom, every device and any device that connects to the internet to do anything receives that IP address from Active Directory. Okay, so in other words, without it, nothing can talk. Domain name services or DNS services, which is a fancy technology term for whenever you type in something, it resolves to a website or to a name. Active Directory provides that.
Without you having to know the number and all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Active Directory is what basically provisions every user we have into either Office 365 or G Suite for Education or both. Okay, to provide access to your collaborative suite, email, and things like that. It provides for the management of user accounts, okay, Windows workstations, printing, file sharing, group policy. It provides access to your wireless network in a lot of cases. It's also kind of the target hardware platform for what we do from an antivirus perspective with McAfee and Windows Update. So there's a lot of stuff, as well as the fact that it's what we use to create the global address list, where you can actually pick people out to share with or email to. All that behind the scenes is what Active Directory does. So I think, David, your first point, regardless of what end user device you're using, regardless of what platform you've got, whether you're running Windows, whether you're running Chrome, whether you're running a Mac, those things I just listed are services that are provided to everybody, regardless of platform. Now, for some folks, they use Active Directory for much, much more than just those basic things I just identified. Okay, and I think that really paints a great picture to where we want to go long term, and it really, I guess, lays out what our challenge is moving forward. And basically, let me explain it this way. So at the end of the day, Everybody needs access to technology stuff. Okay, you need access to your phone, to your workstation. You need access to networks, to applications, printers, the internet, door access systems. You need access to all these things. And we can provide access one of two ways. I can either create you an account, a login ID and a password for every one of those systems separately. And of course, when we see that, and we see that a lot of times in our personal lives, what it means is we have a different login ID and a different password for all these things that we access, which, to be honest with you, is not only troublesome from an end user perspective, but it has some security implications associated with it as well. Or we can create your account in one place and then use that one account to provide you access to all the things that you need. Okay, which to me is a much more efficient way of doing business. And to be honest with you, that's kind of where we want to go long term. So if you paint that picture for the directory, wouldn't it be awesome if when a student is enrolled in Infinite Campus or a staff member is hired, all right, and created in Munis, that automatically their accounts get established or created in Active Directory, and from there, access to Office 365, G Suite, networks, applications, printers, and all these things are automatically provided, and you have one set of credentials, you have one password, okay, that you can leverage for all that stuff.
Jimmy, does this sound familiar?
Yeah, I'm signing up right now.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So really what we want to be able to do is, and we've got districts around the state that are doing this today in a really awesome way. So we want to take that collective group of best practices that we've seen from around the state and figure out how do we package that up so that every district can get there in some flavor based on different variables. Does that make sense? You know, so really the goal of the upgrade is how do we improve the overall end user experience and make it easier for them to get to their stuff, but at the same time build some more back-end efficiencies and security measures into overall account management. Because as we talked about on this webcast and other forums, we know we've got issues associated with stale accounts. All right? We know we've got issues associated with poor password policies. And the ability to upgrade the directory and do it right and make sure we account for all these things solves a whole lot of problems with a great big bow on them. So what we're going to be doing, and through our field staff, we've already identified a representative from every region to form an advisory committee. Okay, we want to bring those folks together. And we want to start talking about how can we, number one, make sure we continue to provide that service, okay, upgrade that hardware, upgrade that software, make sure that we've got the support structure around it that y'all need, but make sure that it's done so in a manner that allows you to build some efficiencies in at the local level to make that end user experience even better and more secure. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, no details other than that, David. We really haven't started on anything other than right now bringing together that advisory committee. But we do know that this calendar year, 2019, is the target for doing this upgrade. We don't have dates, times, or anything like that at this point in time, as much as that's what the target is. So,
Jimmy, I want to give you a chance to comment about what we're proposing.
It would be great if we were much more efficient. I mean, we do what we can here. We talk with HR, we get the information with a ticketing system for that. We've automated our student account creation, but to have all that work together, yeah, I'm sold. And if we can make it as simple as possible to implement and support. Implementing is one thing. The support down the road is the other thing.
That's correct.
With everybody, we've talked about the people aspect of this before. Without having a person dedicated to 6,000 student accounts and 1,000 staff accounts that change literally every hour because somebody enrolls or drops out or goes to another system or a substitute becomes a full-time teacher, all that changes constantly.
Correct.
So we need something to be more efficient.
well, and from a superintendent's perspective, I think one of the big risks, because obviously one of the last things you ever want is to show up in the newspaper in anything other than good.
Yes,
okay?
true.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's always a goal there, okay? But to Jimmy's point, a lot of times as people are hired and they transfer or leave, as students enroll or transfer out, the systems that maintain those records, whether that's Infinite Campus or whether that's Munis, if they're not integrated tightly in with access to everything else, what you wind up having is a bunch of accounts that your technology leaders aren't aware need to be modified or changed that can be hacked. and bad things can happen by some bad actors that are out there. It's a term that Bob Hackworth, our chief security officer, likes to use. All right?
He makes us use.
And makes us use, yes, exactly. So, absolutely.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, Jimmy, I was just off the top of your head, do you know percentage of your support tickets that come in are account related, password related?
And well, if you add the password issue, my techs are sitting there in the back of the room, we probably, I would say 25% of our tickets are account related easily.
Yeah.
And it's getting new students in works great with our Infinite Campus and the script that we use. When they withdraw, they're disabled, so that's good. But it's not always that simple with the staff because they change buildings, they change assignments. They take leaves or they no longer are a substitute, but they don't tell anybody, so that account sits there for 9 months till the end of the year, and we go, well, who's this person? Well, they quit 7 months ago. Okay.
Well, thanks, Chuck, and we'll see if there's any go soapbox that come from that. I wanted to shift it to now telehealth. The good news is Katie was asked to be part of a telehealth committee. Typically, we find out after the fact that the people fill this stuff in a school and say, oh, by the way, it doesn't work or there's problems, and then we get brought in. So I appreciate them making us aware of that. I think it's the Cabinet for Families and Children. Is that who's leading that, Lisa? And I gave two big, orders or perspectives that I want Lisa to take to that group. One is to make sure, while the intention is good to improve the telehealth services to school districts, to make sure that those folks that are marketing it and pushing it are aware of the impacts on bandwidth it could have, and make sure they're not pushing something that is a massive overkill for something that can be done much more simply but takes up a gob of bandwidth and just crushes a district's network because they got the super high-end part of that. So I wanted that almost said in every sentence. I know Andy was part of that group. Megan, too. I mean, actually, this is the three that carry that mantra. We're all for it. We're not against the idea, but do not crush and come up with these really big concepts that do not take in consideration the impact it could have on a school's network. And so I know you were constantly trying to carry that message for us the best you could, and also the importance of product standardization. We have that. We talked about two of those, and what that means and doesn't mean to a group that this would be a blind spot for. We do find folks outside our organization, just not Katie, but state government, really struggle with the concept of what it means to product standards, and what the burden that puts on school districts to have 10 different products from folks with well-meaning kind of things. So I'll turn it over to Lisa, who sat in there, and I wanted to give you all a heads up. This is mainly a heads up to Jimmy and those folks in his position to make sure you're making your superintendents aware of some of our apprehensions that still came out of that group and some of the findings. So I'll let Lisa share that.
Thank you, David. So I'm Lisa Moore, and David is right. Andy and Megan and myself, and then Bob Hackworth and David Jackie have all been involved in dealing with the telehealth. So we have listened to and participated in several conference calls and legislative briefings, and I actually spent a whole day talking about Medicare and Medicaid billing, so I learned a lot of things on that day. So this was all born out of a bill that was passed last year in the 2018 legislative session. It's Senate Bill 118, which I can share with anyone who's interested. However, some of the things go into effect on July 1 of 2019. And part of that is that they have a way to actually get reimbursement for those telehealth services. So one thing we are not aware of, we don't have a good feel for, and we have some go soapbox questions that will come up here in a minute, is how much exposure the school districts have had using or being involved with telehealth services. So we feel like that's going to increase. We don't know. There is no standardization on the software that will be used. So if it's a medical group that you contract with, then that's probably going to be more standardized, and there will be fewer pieces of different types of software. School safety has brought on a renewed interest in the mental health screenings, and so that could increase the number of connections and telehealth conferences that are used for those types of services as well. So they actually mentioned school safety mentioned that in their presentations several times in the last few weeks, both the House bill and the Senate bill versions of the school safety bill. So I do think there's going to be more interest in telehealth services, partially for that reason. So a couple things that we wanted to let you know that we're working on is because it does involve all levels of leadership. So the superintendent's going to need to know, what do I need to be aware of and consider? The local boards are going to need to know that. The school health coordinators in our school districts, whether it's a dedicated school nurse or a person who works with and contracts with a medical group that comes in. So, and also our CIOs, what do you need to be aware of? What do you need to be considering? So, the group that I mentioned earlier, the handful of us here at OET, are trying to put that together for you. And we will have that, and it'll come out through the field staff. And we'll share that with you in the coming weeks. A few things we wanted to make sure you were aware of is that the provider is the one that is responsible to meet the security considerations. So we have HIPAA, we have FERPA, and Bob, you tell me if I'm missing anything. They're responsible for all the retention of those records, however it is held, whether it's by phone, whatever type of device that is being used to provide those telehealth services. So there are a lot of considerations, but one thing, it will be done mostly during instructional hours, so it does have the capability to increase bandwidth needs for your school. So that's a consideration that you do need to take into consideration there. So
Lisa, real quick, so basically I think what you were just getting at is, from Jimmy's perspective, all right, obviously transport, whatever systems or applications they're bringing in, they're going to be asking you to provide some level of connectivity to. Okay, so obviously one of our big concerns is going to be, what does that do to the local network? What does that do to your wide array network? What does that do in terms of bandwidth consumption?
correct.
Right. I would be concerned from the security of the device. What rooms do we provide this access to? It's
Right,
actually
facilities.
a private setting.
Yes.
So the schools are going to have dedicated locations as well.
Along that line, Superintendent Koff or maybe Mr. Masters, do you all in-house your nursing services, or do you partner with an outside agency?
We partner with our public health department here in Franklin County, so we try to coordinate and collaborate with them through all of these different initiatives. So.
And I think that's becoming more and more common as budgets are getting tighter at the local level, and trying to find that expertise is partnering with that third-party entity, which goes a little bit to what you were getting at earlier, Lisa, is that third-party health provider will be the one that will bring to the table, here's this web conferencing tool we use, and it'll be key for the Jimmy Packs and school districts to have an understanding of if there are any technical requirements. As far as, do ports need to be open? I mean, is it a particular type of software that requires something unique?
Okay. And there is a Kentucky Telehealth Summit that's coming up on May 23rd. Last year, I did not attend. We did have someone in attendance last year, but...
Damon attended for us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think they actually had a whole track on school telehealth. So we'll have attendance at that this year, and if anything big comes out of that, we'll be sure to continue to provide information to you.
And by the way, Lisa plays all these roles for us, and this is just one of 30 that she plays. And for those that don't know, Lisa's been with CATS since the very beginning of CATS. So she goes back to the early 90s when we first started this. So I appreciate your involvement. Like I say, this is not the only thing she does. If it's a hot potato, she's usually involved with it, though. So I appreciate what you've done for us, Lisa. Next item, I did want to see the responses, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you guys, we're not going to go in order, so we're going to keep you hopping. Questions 2, 3, and 4, Q2, 3, and 4, just the responses to that, if we could see those, and see if Lisa can see them, because this is the one. Okay.
At least 9 districts are already partnering with a telehealth provider. That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Work with field staff to...
Question 3. At least I don't know if any of these surprise you or not when you see them.
Yeah, I'm looking.
And I don't know, based upon what you were saying with the budgets, does this increase, even though there may be an in-house, does this cause a shift or not? I'm not sure through the telehealth. And then question 4.
This is one that we're really, concerned about and
Yeah.
watching for.
So mainly we wanted to put this on your radar screen. If it's not already impacted your district, it soon will. And make sure you volunteer yourself or invite yourself to the meetings on this topic. Because typically, the EdTech leader position is the last one to find out when something doesn't work right, instead of being part on the front end. So,
David, if I can just add one very quick thing. So, I think something else that's really driving this, especially the outsourcing piece I mentioned about budget restrictions at the local level. There are a lot of school districts that I've discovered that as they outsource to a third-party health provider, whether it's local health department or a private organization, they're also leveraging that health provider to file for state or federal reimbursements as they see those students, whether it's for just a well-being check or whatever the case might be. And so that's one way that some school districts are starting to be able to offset that cost is through having those state or federal reimbursements. So I think this is going to be something we continue to see more and more of, which again, it goes to the point why it's so critical as telehealth becomes more and more on the scene that we're tuned into it. So.
thank you. I wanted to have, I should have said this toward the beginning of the webcast. This morning I sent out an updated agenda, and please take a look at that if you haven't already, because it had in there the KT slides that KT updated because the link that I had before would not work for you. But also it gives the topics that we've asked you to respond to as far as the CIO Summit and more details in those topics. So if you've not seen those and just responded, I know we're going to take a look here in a minute of the Go Soapbox responses, but it kind of goes into the background of why we have the summit, the things that we're looking for out of a summit, but also the topics as well to respond to. So Marty, I wanted to give you a chance to give an update on the computer science standards and the academic standards, technology related.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
By the way, you are on probation for your DDL, but that was Marty back there. Just want to say it. He was off screen. That was him.
Trying to play 90s music.
So he was trying to play 90s music. So he's on a probation, not suspended, but probation with your DDL.
I have to have some. Yeah, right. All my devices. I have to have some way to get 90s music on the show. It's a big deal for us. No, thank you so much for the opportunity. Last Friday was really a big day for Kentucky. For the first time ever, we officially posted and recognized K-12 computer science standards, and those were legislatively approved and finalized, which is awesome for us. Really, just to quickly state that this really sets the tone for us. We redefine what computer science means in Kentucky and for our future workforce. So we're really excited about that. They're K-12 standards. They are elective standards. So when computer sciences are taught, reference these standards. On our website, we have the traditional PDF file of all the details of those grade-banded standards, but we also have an interactive form. So if I'm a third grade teacher and I want to look at the computer science standards that are all about algorithms and programming, which can absolutely be taught at the third grade level, then you can quickly get to those. So that's posted and available. Computer science standards for us in Kentucky are how technologies work and making the technology. So building an app is an example of where computer science standards, and those are Kentucky academic standards for computer science. Shifting gears a bit, we are now ramping up, and there was a press release last week, and we've opened up applications for our academic, Kentucky academic standards for technology. And I want to just spend a second and differentiate between the two. So our computer science standards, as I said, are how the technologies work and making the technologies. Our academic standards for technology are using the digital tools and resources when you learn, right? So it's being a digital collaborator, for example. These are referenced in our current proposed graduation requirements. And so these are for all students, K through 12, and it's specifically to show competencies in technologies at the high school level prior to graduation. So the applications are available and are out there. We've already received over 50 applicants to revise and rewrite these standards in just about 3 days. So there's good energy and excitement there. We'll work through that process and we'll have a lot of fun doing it. We'll work tightly with strong organizations, international organizations like ISTE and others. So that work will move forward. So be looking for some updates and information there. I did also want to mention, you hit the nail on the head, April 18th, state championship. This is a very unique year for us in Student Technology Leadership Program, STLP, where we have, because of weather issues, we have our 3 big cycles going on at the same time. So it is the tsunami approach of STLP. So we had our regionals that we just closed out last week. Jeff Sobolski did an amazing job of organizing virtual makeups. We worked with over 300 students last week in about 3 or 4 hours. So it was just phenomenal to see a lot of adults and students come together there. Our digital product online judging is going on right now. And then also with our state championship, we're gearing up for that. So be on the lookout for all that news and excitement coming forward. This is going to be another record-breaking year for STLP.
Marty, I noticed you said that it's already been posted. I know that the principal here at the Career and Tech Center was asking us beforehand.
Yeah.
I just did a quick search. I used the phrase computer science standards in
And
the
it worked.
KDE search box. It was the very first result. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's there, and it looks like some stuff was updated during the webcast.
That's right. Mr. Ben Maynard has been updating that with all our latest computer science work. And if you scroll down on that page, you'll have that interactive experience with those standards.
So hopefully by the state championship, we can take you off probation. Do you think so?
I would love that.
Okay,
Here you
we'll
go.
work on it. Thank you, Marty. In all seriousness, Marty's done some great stuff with this. Appreciate his efforts as well. You all have had a chance to take a look at, we'll just bring it up, to the topics for the upcoming summit. If you could just bring up question 5 and question 6. Let's see what people responded with. Yep.
53 responses so far.
Yep.
Bob Hackworth coming in strong with cybersecurity.
Look at you. Can't get enough of Bob. None of us can get enough of Bob. He's standing here watching over us. Thank you, Bob. All right. Let's take a look at response number 6.
School safety and people side came in strong.
So we're going to, looks like, ideally I would like to have 3 topics, 2 for sure and 3. So we'll let this drive our efforts. So thank you for that feedback. It tells us, and if folks are not sure what's entailed in all those, I did go into detail with the agenda note that I sent at 7:20 this morning to go on what we were talking about with this. So thank you for that feedback. We'll quickly cover the rest of these in a highlight. I know, Dee Dee, we sent out a lot of yours for the directors. I did kind of a copy paste of these other items we'll touch briefly on. But I know we had a civil rights part. I don't know if you want to mention anything for your area before we move on to Mike.
Civil rights data collection did open up. Just looking at the initial feedback in question number 1, when we were looking at that, it didn't look like a lot of you have heard much about it.
Can you bring up question 1? Just go ahead and bring it up. Yeah.
But it is information that does have to be collected from every school. And the communication from it's a federal collection, not a state collection. The state, a few years back now, decided to help with the collection because one of the benefits of us having a statewide student information system is we have access to that data and can provide it one time versus each of you having to provide the data. It's a very comprehensive data collection. It's huge. It's a lot of work that goes into that. So somebody in your schools should be looking at the data right now. KDE has preloaded the data that we have. It's a school and a district level collection, so somebody should be looking at the data. If you see something that just does not look right, I'd like to say we're perfect, but we're not always perfect. So we need you all looking at it so you can let us know if something's wrong. We still have time to reload. We've asked you all not to start loading your own data. You can be collecting it, and we've provided you some tools out there to collect it in spreadsheets. But don't start entering data until we give you the green light, which should be around February the 25th. But that way, if we do find a reason we have to reload, we won't overlay any data that you've entered. So there's not a way to protect it unless we just delay opening to the Kentucky schools. So at this point, we don't have anything that's been brought up, but please do promote use.
And Dee Dee, we do something here in Kentucky kind of unique compared to other states, where we load data, as you said, for on behalf of our schools and districts.
Right.
But there is someone in every district that is.
Yeah, there's somebody, superintendent assigned something that went back early. Last year they assigned people for schools and districts. None of that has changed. We're just really helping with the collection. We do what we can to, minimize the burden, but we can't do it, and we cannot approve it and do the final submittal on your behalf. It has to be done at the school and district level.
I'd like to say another one of the topics that we have here, I don't know if there's anything else we need to say about that topic.
No.
Is the, when I was in Washington or in Florida about the school safety is, the question was, how much data should a school, for example, resource officer get? And so they had folks from Washington, I think it's Michael Hawes, is that his name, that's put out a document. So make sure when you're really interested in safety, you're not sacrificing privacy. And I thought this was some pretty good guidelines. So I encourage you, as we're talking, school safety is up on the radar screen, is what should and should not someone be able to see directly, and making sure privacy is not sacrificed just for the sake of security. I thought that was pretty good information.
One thing I do want to mention on school, if you do get questions about the technology question, remember, you did help contribute to that through the school report card. We collected that data through the school report card. You provided those numbers. Those numbers are then being shared from the state level to CRDC. So that data is already in the civil rights data collection just for verification.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons we got it there. That's right. Mike, on the we listed out, I did a copy paste of your report of the offers and the EdTech funding and the licensing. And even online testing, is there anything you'd like to point out or
those are all awareness items. I think what we've got captured in the agenda that you sent out pretty much covers those items. Obviously, if anybody has any questions on them, they can inquire about each of those either through their KE or directly to my group.
And usually we don't go into details of them, but please, as we're closing up here, we did want to make you aware of, I know Mike and your team, you're aware of a statewide school nutrition and point of sale solution of intention to do ideally an RFP, and this would probably be the first time this is mentioned, and this is one of the reasons I did go to Florida, is there something that happened?
That shocked you.
It sounds like good news.
Yeah. Is doing a teacher certification and licensing RFI with the intention of doing an RFP next. Spent some time with states that have gone down that path. My peers at the state level in Florida, and I met with the right folks in KD and obviously our commissioner, and very interested in us going to a modern system to address those needs there. I know we have Digital Learning Day coming up here on the 28th.
Yep,
40 districts have signed up for that. So unless we have something that's bubbled up, have you seen anything bubbled up on the Go Soapbox we need to address before
While you're looking, I just want to give out one plug for the data visualization work that's been done. That has been announced at the DVP conference as well as Infinite Campus Interchange. The tools are out there. If this is coming to this doesn't make sense to me, I'm not really heard about this, reach out to me. I can send you some videos. But within Infinite Campus, you have tools available to you that provide digitally. You can share with your board attendance, demographics, behavior data. It makes data so much more powerful. So I know this audience isn't always your data folks, but I have to give it one plug here just to, if you're not aware of it, please do take an opportunity to get that information, reach out to me, and I'll be glad to share the video.
And this is one of the things we want to talk about during the summit, though, is we have to find a mechanism. If we're not talking to the right group, how do we do that? So, as I said, one of the folks watching or some of them say, man, I just do the pure technology, I don't do the data, is what is the best mechanism for us to talk to the data folks? And one of those we count on, and maybe we shouldn't, but we'll find out, those that are watching this to at least make the other people aware in their district office of it, because we find a lot of different times they're unaware. And so we at least ask you to carry that on. So even if you're not have anything to do with that, data visualization, Infinite Campus, please make sure that the right person in your district is aware of it.
Well, David, I just want to tag that point with a with a leadership push, and it's something we'll talk about at the summit, but I think any EdTech leader that we have, and we've got a superintendent here, and I hope you can affirm what I'm getting ready to say, anytime you can present a strategy that has some type of data behind it, that you can present in a visual manner, all right, that goes a long way toward people comprehending, all right, and moving on that. And data visualization skills as a leadership skill, whether that's something with an Infinite Campus, whether that's something we've got with an Office 365 or G Suite that's available today, is something that we encourage every technology leader to start building superpower around, because whether it's data for attendance or demographics or just trying to show and validate the value you're bringing to the table in a visual manner, and it's a powerful skill, I'm telling you right now. This one here, sitting next to you, anytime we can present anything to anybody at the C levels, what term we like to use, in a visual manner, goes a long way. So,
David, one other quick thing. I know you started out talking about sports and your connection there with Jimmy. We also all know, or many of us know, Bruce Lindsay, a hockey fanatic, so that's really not your sport.
I follow hockey, yeah.
You follow hockey well. You know, his son Jackson, who is becoming a hockey superstar, actually has some competition because there's some connections to your left.
That's true. I wanted to just say a couple things. There you see a picture on the screen there.
Nice.
I'm a proud father today. That's my daughter Ava yesterday. And that's at actually Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio, on the ice the Blue Jackets played on last night. Earlier in the day, she took part in a USA hockey clinic for girls hockey. So it's the support of girls hockey, which is fantastic, and I'm awfully proud, and she did very well. And there's a reason we're saying this. It's not just bragging about my kiddo. You know, I can do that.
And that she could probably take on Jackson, we've determined.
I'm thinking we need to do that. Okay. So in our district, we have what I like to call we recognize 2 team members of the month. Team membership for us is every one of our staff members are team members, and we try to recognize the great work that our folks are doing. And part of that is we give a little gift card to the team members, and we also give something that's important to me. So what's important to me is hockey. I'm a hockey fanatic, one of the very few in the state, and so we want to give something to you, David. We want to recognize you as one of our honorary One Team FCS Team Members of the Month with your very own Franklin County hockey puck that you can put on your desk there. And I so appreciate you coming and doing this in our district today. We've really enjoyed having the opportunity to talk about technology, and we really appreciate it.
Great visit.
So thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next month, and we'll definitely see you at KISTI. Take care.